Touted as the world's second oldest profession, espionage and spying is fundamentally the stealing of secrets. While the motivations driving individuals into the clandestine world of espionage have remained surprisingly constant, be it money, ideology, coercion, or ego, the methods employed in the craft have undergone seismic shifts. From the ancient spies of Egypt and Rome, to the ingenious and outlandish spy gadgets of the Cold War, to the cyber warriors of the digital age, the tools and tactics have evolved. The mission, however, as part of the age-old game of power and information has remained the same: to recruit spies, to steal secrets, and conduct covert action. In the corridors of ancient power, espionage was as much a part of governance as the scepter and the throne. Ancient civilizations such as Egypt, China, India, Rome, and Greece all recognized spying as a crucial tool in politics and war. Perhaps the earliest accounts of archetypal espionage activities are recorded in the pages of the Bible. Take, for example, the 12 spies dispatched by Moses into the land of Canaan, or the 2 spies harbored by Rahab as the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt recognized the value of intelligence gathering, deploying spies both domestically and internationally to safeguard their rule. These agents were skilled in the art of encryption and even developed early forms of invisible ink. Egyptian spies weren't limited to gathering information. They were also trained assassins, proficient in the use of poisons and toxins. The Roman Empire, a civilization often lauded for its military prowess and strategic acumen, had a complex relationship with the art of espionage. While Roman writers often boasted of their army's straightforward, forceful tactics, the historical record paints a more nuanced picture. Far from shunning covert operations, the Romans employed a full spectrum of intelligence techniques to maintain their sprawling empire. Sun Tzu, the Chinese strategist of the 4th century BC, laid the groundwork for modern spycraft in his seminal work, The Art of War. He emphasized the importance of understanding both oneself and the enemy, noting that foreknowledge of enemy plans brings victory on the battlefield. After the fall of the Roman Empire, and as the world transitioned into the Middle Ages, espionage was forced to adapt to the feudal system and the emergence of the Catholic Church as the dominant political entity. Spying activities became central to the Inquisition, with the Church harnessing its vast network of informants to weed out heretics and political dissenters. While espionage during medieval times was largely restricted to wartime, the emergence of nation-states such as France and England saw the promulgation of laws against treason and political spying. Naturally, with espionage comes counter-espionage, and protecting one's own secrets became as important as the ability to steal those of an adversary. Looking eastwards, during their 13th and 14th century conquests, the Mongols relied heavily on espionage. Spies sowed seeds of dissension among the enemy, and scouts were used to monitor troop movements. Likewise, in feudal Japan, shinobi were used for intelligence gathering, sabotage, and assassination. As time marched on, the Renaissance saw the birth of modern espionage methods where diplomacy and intelligence gathering overlapped, sometimes to the point of being indistinguishable. This time period saw the development of more organized intelligence organizations designed to protect national interests. Chief among these was the Venetian Secret Service. By the 16th century, Venice had created a formal intelligence structure having an organized hierarchy and separated into distinct communication networks. This was administered by the Council of Ten, responsible for security matters in Venice, northern Italy, and the Levant. This organized intelligence structure was instrumental in preserving Venetian interests in the Eastern spice and silk trade, and in providing valuable intelligence to the Council during the long-running wars with the Ottoman Empire. In England, Francis Walsingham in the Elizabethan era established an intelligence service that included cryptographers and experts in forgery. He was instrumental in exposing the 1571 Ridolfi plot, which was the plan to replace Queen Elizabeth I with Mary, Queen of Scots. Walsingham's network of intelligencers spanned across Europe, many of whom worked under diplomatic cover from newly established embassies. At the zenith of the 18th century, the air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and the fervor of revolution. In America, 13 colonies were gearing up to sever ties with the British Empire. Across the Atlantic, France was a simmering cauldron of social unrest. In both arenas, spies and secret agents played roles as pivotal as any general or statesman. General George Washington established a successful intelligence system to monitor British activities during the American War of Independence. The Culper Ring, formed by Major Benjamin Tallmadge in 1778, was instrumental in collecting information about British forces in New York. The intelligence network learned of American turncoat Benedict Arnold's intention to surrender the American fort at West Point to British forces, which would have been a major blow to the American Continental Army. Indeed, Washington's intelligence efforts were so effective that he has been called America's first spymaster. During the tumultuous period of the French Revolution and the Reign of Terror, spies and informants were used to root out counter-revolutionaries. Meanwhile, across the Channel, the British built a wide network of agents to counter the revolutionary zeal emanating from France. Napoleon Bonaparte made extensive use of secret agents, especially in his dealings with Russia, although they weren't able to prevent the disaster that was the Russian campaign. His intelligence network was not just limited to espionage, it also included recruitment of soldiers, collection of funds, and even a propaganda campaign aimed at drawing parallels between him and the great Emperor Charlemagne. As dawn broke over the 19th century, the world found itself in the throes of two transformative forces: imperialism and industrialization. European powers were extending their dominions across Asia, Africa, and the Americas, while factories and railways were revolutionizing economies and societies. The momentum of the Industrial Revolution meant that technological secrets became as valuable as territorial gains. Countries sought to outdo each other in the fields of manufacturing, weaponry, and transportation. Industrial espionage became rampant, with agents stealing blueprints and even smuggling skilled workers across borders. What emerged as one of the most groundbreaking inventions of the industrial age was the telegraph. This marvel of technology allowed for near-instantaneous communication over long distances, revolutionizing not just everyday communication, but also the world of espionage. Samuel Morse's code, a series of dots and dashes, became the new language of secrecy and speed for decades to come. For intelligence agencies, the telegraph offered a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allowed for rapid dissemination of information, enabling real-time decision-making based on current intelligence. On the other hand, telegraph lines could be tapped and messages intercepted and decoded. This led to the use of existing encryption methods to secure telegraph transmissions. The complexities of imperial governance and industrial competition led in the early 20th century to the formation of more organized and specialized intelligence agencies. Britain's Secret Service Bureau, the precursor to MI6, was established in 1909, partly in response to increasing concerns about German espionage activities conducted by its agency known as Department 3B. For these agencies and others like them, the safeguarding of industrial secrets and colonial interests was paramount. As the world plunged into the chaos of World War I, espionage evolved into a more sophisticated and deadly game. The war was not just fought in the trenches, it was also waged in the shadows, where spies and intelligence agencies operated in a world of codes, code breakers, and subterfuge. Code breaking, or cryptography, became a vital aspect of intelligence work. Radio and telegraph were the primary means of sending and receiving these coded messages. World War I spurred a cryptography arms race. Gone were the slow manual ciphers of old. These were replaced by new electric rotor ciphers, including the teletype one-time tape cipher, which could automatically and instantaneously encrypt and decrypt messages. Although the United States was technically neutral in the war, industrialization saw it become a global manufacturing power, supplying the Triple Entente with explosives and munitions. Germany conducted covert operations within the USA during this time in an effort to stem the flow of supplies to its European adversaries. In January 1917, after years of bitter fighting, British intelligence intercepted and decoded a telegram sent by the German Foreign Office to its ambassador in Mexico. This telegram, known as the Zimmermann telegram, revealed a German plot to target the United States and promising Mexico territorial gains in return. This was the impetus for the USA to enter the war, which ultimately proved decisive in the conflict. World War I fundamentally changed the landscape of espionage, introducing modern signals intelligence concerned with the monitoring, interception, and interpretation of radio and radar signals. The stage was thus set for the intelligence wars that would follow during the remainder of the 20th century. The seeds of another conflict had been sown in Europe even before the smoke had cleared from the battlefields of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles left Germany humiliated and economically crippled, paving the way for the rise of Adolf Hitler. Meanwhile, the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 birthed a new communist state in Russia. The world was changing, and with it, the methods of warfare. Espionage, once a sideshow, was about to take center stage. In the interwar years, intelligence agencies continued to evolve and expand. At the heart of the military operations of all the major powers was intelligence gathering and disinformation. One of the most dramatic episodes of World War II espionage involved the breaking of Germany's Enigma code. British cryptanalysts, led by the brilliant Alan Turing, worked tirelessly at Bletchley Park to crack the code. Their success gave the Allies an invaluable insight into German plans, arguably shortening the war by years. While codebreakers worked in secret locations, field agents risked their lives behind enemy lines. Churchill's Secret Army, the Special Operations Executive, SOE, trained men and women in the art of spycraft. Parachuted into enemy territory to support local resistance movements, SOE agents were well trained in sabotage, logistics, and intelligence gathering. Agents like Virginia Hall and the White Mouse Nancy Wake became legends. Their exploits and contributions read like pages from a thriller. This collaboration was crucial in disrupting German logistics and supporting the eventual liberation of France. Another famous deception was Operation Mincemeat, whose purpose was to misdirect Axis powers in the lead-up to the Allied invasion of Sicily in 1943. British intelligence ingeniously dressed a dead body up in a Royal Marine officer's uniform, planting fake documents suggesting an invasion of Greece and Sardinia instead of Sicily. The body was released near Spain's coast, where Spanish authorities recovered it. The fake documents made their way into the hands of German intelligence. Taking the bait, the German High Command diverted forces to Greece and Sardinia. As a result, Sicily was taken faster and with fewer losses than expected. Yet it wasn't all glory for the Allied intelligence agencies and spies. For every victory there was an embarrassing defeat. In 1943, a young British cryptographer named Leo Marx suspected that the SOE's agents in the Netherlands had been compromised. His warnings were ignored. As it turned out, 2 Dutch agents had been captured by German forces who for 2 years controlled their communications with the British. The German operation, known as Das England-Spiel, or the England Game, led to the arrest of 25 agents upon landing in Holland. Also, countless supply drops containing weapons and munitions destined for resistance networks were intercepted by the Germans. Despite these setbacks, intelligence gathering and misdirection were to play a decisive role as the Allies closed in on Germany in the lead-up to D-Day. A motley crew of spies, known as the D-Day or Misfit Spies, played a pivotal role in the success of the Normandy landings. These agents, under the aegis of the British double-cross system, fed false information to the Germans, convincing them that the invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. In the United States, a different kind of secret operation was underway, the Manhattan Project. The aim was to build an atomic bomb before Germany could. However, the project was infiltrated by Soviet spies like Klaus Fuchs and Julius Rosenberg, who leaked nuclear secrets to the USSR. This breach would later fan the flames of Cold War espionage as nuclear knowledge became the ultimate prize in the ideological battleground. The United States of America and the Soviet Union emerged from the fires of the Second World War as the new global superpowers. They were strange bedfellows during World War II, united only temporarily by a need to defeat a common enemy. The United States, a bastion of capitalism and democracy, and the Soviet Union, the stronghold of communism, eyed each other warily with distrust. The ideological chasm between East and West soon gave rise to a new kind of war, one fought by proxy and propaganda, using foreign relations as a diplomatic shield. This era saw the birth of new, larger and more complex intelligence agencies and bureaucracies. The USA created the NSA, the CIA and the FBI, while Great Britain's MI5 and MI6 organizations expanded rapidly. On the other side of the Iron Curtain, the Soviet Union set up the KGB and GRU and was supported by a large number of agencies across the Soviet bloc and its satellite states. Whether it was the race to space and the moon, or the rapid development and acquisition of nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missiles, East and West competed at every conceivable level. Many consider the Cold War as the golden age of espionage, during which it reached new heights of sophistication, danger, impact, and risk. From dead drops to microdots, cutouts and brush passes, spycraft during the 40 years of the Cold War was forced to evolve quicker than ever before. The beating heart of the Cold War battleground was Berlin, a city which had been carved up into 4 zones by the victors of World War II. Initially divided by ideology, the construction of the infamous Berlin Wall in August 1961 gave physical manifestation to the divided nation. West Berlin was a small, isolated oasis of democracy and capitalism, totally surrounded by a country whose new overlords were fiercely communist. In the West, there was great fear that communism would spread from country to country like the fall of so many dominoes. It was this theory that informed US foreign policy and the domestic hunt for communists typified by McCarthyism during the Red Scare. This was the context in which spying proliferated during the Cold War. Espionage is a very serious matter for some, a deadly serious business. This was how author Raymond L. Garthoff described spying and espionage in his book, A Journey Through the Cold War. Given the high risks to life and limb often associated with spying, the question of why anybody would want to spy in the first place became an interesting question of psychology. The mnemonic MICE was used to identify the prime factors that motivate a spy. These are money, ideology, coercion, and ego. There were countless spies whose chief motivation was money. These men and women found the allure of fortune and a lavish lifestyle irresistible. For others, ideology was the prime motivating factor, the belief that one or other political and economic system was inherently good. Then there was coercion. The blackmailing of diplomats and embassy staff was rife. Whether the dirt on the target was black market activities or an illicit affair with a honey trap caught on camera, dozens chose spying over embarrassment, unemployment, and potential criminal charges. Finally, ego. There are those whose delusions of grandeur and a need to feel powerful and influential drive them to betray their nations. In some instances, spy masters played to their target's sense of self-importance and those who feel they haven't received their just desserts career-wise. For these men and women, a military rank, a seat at the table, or even just someone to listen to their pontifications was enough. But spying always being a complex game, it was usually a combination of all these factors to one degree or another that paved the way to treachery for the spy. The Cold War spying game was personified by the Mad magazine's cartoon of the 2 dueling spies, one wearing black and the other white, signifying the ideological contrast between capitalism and communism, and in the eyes of the West, good versus evil, respectively. Yet in the world of spying, things are never quite so black and white. Throughout the Cold War, moles and double agents crisscrossed the lines between hero and traitor. Men like Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen betrayed the United States from within, while Oleg Penkovsky and Adolf Tolkachev committed treason by providing the West with crucial information about the Soviet Union's nuclear and other military capabilities. In the United Kingdom, the revelation of the Cambridge Five, those trusted British intelligence officers who had been recruited by the Soviets, shook the Western intelligence community to its core, sowing seeds of distrust that would last for decades. In 1962, the world held its breath as US spy planes discovered Soviet missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the American coast. For 13 nerve-wracking days, the United States and the Soviet Union played a high-stakes game of brinkmanship. Ultimately, intelligence gathered by U-2 spy planes, back-channel communications, and some timely espionage helped avert a nuclear catastrophe. As rockets soared towards the heavens, so did the ambitions of the CIA and KGB. The space race became a celestial theater for espionage. Satellites, ostensibly launched for scientific research, doubled as spy platforms. The Cold War was also the time that the media and the public at large became fascinated and enthralled by the notion of the super spy. Films and novels not only entertained, but also shaped perceptions, sometimes blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Ian Fleming's suave and sophisticated James Bond burst onto the scene in 1953 with the novel Casino Royale. Bond was the epitome of Cold War glamour and audacity, a man who could defuse a nuclear bomb and charm an enemy agent in the same breath. While Fleming himself said that the Bond character was just some nonsense that he dreamed up, it is hard not to draw comparison of the character against the very real lives of men like Sidney Riley and Dusko Popov. In stark contrast to Bond's flamboyance stood the characters of John le Carré's novels. Works like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold and Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy presented a grittier, more realistic view of espionage. Le Carré's spies were not action heroes, but flawed individuals caught in a web of moral ambiguity. His portrayal underscored the psychological toll of espionage, a game where trust was a rare commodity and betrayal was often a matter of course. And just like Q in James Bond, new and ingenious spy gadgets proliferated during the Cold War. Taking center stage was a subminiature camera designed by Latvian inventor Walter Zapp. Manufactured for the first time in 1937, the tiny camera was perfect for clandestine jobs. It became the mainstay for Cold War spies and turncoats on both sides of the Iron Curtain looking to steal secrets for their spy masters. The camera, which could be easily concealed, increased the volume of information that a spy could gather exponentially. Despite some near misses, the world emerged from the Cold War having avoided nuclear annihilation. The extent to which espionage served to diffuse geopolitical tensions or escalate them remains a topic for debate. As East and West Germans celebrated their newfound freedom after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the rest of the world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the doomsday clock was pushed back to 10 minutes to midnight. The United States and its NATO allies viewed the dissolution of the Soviet Union on the 25th of December 1991 as victory in the Cold War. Yet some argue that it was the Eastern Bloc that won the spying war. While the West relied on technological advancement for its intelligence gathering, the East focused on human intelligence and assets. This demonstrates that no matter how technologically advanced things get, when it comes to spying, the human element remains crucial. As the 20th century gave way to the 21st, it became clear that the world of spying was not dissolving, it was evolving. The cloak and dagger tactics of the past were replaced by a new kind of warfare fought within the cyber realm. The digital age has been both a boon and a bane for espionage. On one hand, technology has enabled unprecedented access to information. On the other, it has made covert operations more challenging than ever. In the wake of the breakup of the Soviet Union, regional conflicts in places like the Balkans presented new challenges for intelligence agencies. Ethnic tensions and the fragmentation of states required a different kind of espionage, one focused on understanding complex local dynamics rather than global ideological battles. The events of the 11th of September 2001 were a watershed moment for intelligence agencies, first and foremost for the United States. The devastating terrorist attacks exposed significant gaps in intelligence gathering and sharing. In the blink of an eye, counterterrorism became the focal point of intelligence efforts worldwide. In the wake of 9/11, the United States passed the USA Patriot Act, granting sweeping surveillance powers to agencies like the FBI and NSA. The act allowed for the collection of vast amounts of data without a warrant, from phone records to emails to metadata, all in the name of national security. The digital age quickly showed how devastating an internal leak could be. Men like Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange shook the intelligence community to its core. The ease with which information can be disseminated in the digital age has made the insider threat more potent than ever. As espionage moved into the digital realm, hacking as a form of espionage became the primary sparring ground in which states and bad actors alike squared off. From interfering in elections to influencing public sentiment and opinion, the new spying battleground is less tangible than ever. Governments soon employed IT security specialists and deployed sophisticated malware to infiltrate enemy networks and gather intelligence. Malicious software can now quite easily infect Android and iOS devices, granting unauthorized access to everything from text messages to GPS location information. This software has been used by authoritarian regimes to target human rights activists, journalists, and lawyers, and to quash protests and revolution. Modern technology has, however, made it increasingly difficult for spies to operate covertly. Biometric scanners at airports, omnipresent surveillance cameras, and digital footprints have made it nearly impossible for agents to maintain cover identities. As we look to the future of spying and espionage, no doubt the next frontier is that of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We now live in the age of fake news and deep fakes. Drowning in a sea of information, every individual must make a more concerted effort to find out the truth. While the days of covert meetings on street corners may be fading into the past, the world of espionage is far from obsolete. In this new frontier, the stakes are higher, the methods more sophisticated, and the ethical questions more challenging than ever before. What is certain is that the lines between truth and deception will continue to blur, and espionage will continue having an ever-present influence on global affairs. Spanning from the foundational tactics of ancient civilizations to the sophisticated digital landscapes of today, espionage has woven an intricate web through the fabric of history. As our world continues to evolve, so too does the art of spying, reminding us that the game of shadows, motives, and information is as timeless as civilization itself.